Hi everyone. This is a summary of chapters 10, 11, and 12 of the Tao Te Ching. And the version you see on the screen is Paul Lin's translation with Wang Bi's commentary below in the notes. I will leave a link in the description to where you can find this version. Jumping in, chapter 10, he starts, this is Lao Tzu saying, keeping one's ying po, or soul, don't quote my Chinese pronunciation, it's terrible, and embracing the one, or the Tao, can man not depart from it? So the idea is being in touch with the Tao, having your soul be in touch with the Tao, you will not depart from it, and that's the goal. He continues, breathing intensely to induce softness, can man be like an infant? So this focused breathing is the focusing of one's chi, or vital energy, through meditation in order to be like an infant, which means closer to one's nature, because an infant isn't corrupted with all the desires of life, so closer to nature, really. He continues, the mystic vision being pure and clean, can it be without flaw? The mystic vision I take to be the vision of the Tao, being pure and clean, so if you have to remove the distractions, you have to see through the illusions in order to see the Tao, that is the goal as well. He continues, loving the people and governing the state, can man be without action? So this is advice to leaders, to political leaders, and I take this without action to mean wu wei, or perfect action, or sometimes translated as non-action. And the idea is to govern without being overly controlling, to lead without leading, and that's the way to govern the state. He continues, opening and closing the gate of heaven, can it not be the female? Now this first line is a bit confusing, and to the right, it's not, the note that is on this page is not very helpful here, but opening and closing the gate of heaven I take to be the things that nature throws at you, whether it's like, imagine just like the weather, right? You have good weather, you have bad weather, you can't control it, you just have to take what comes. He says the advice is, can it not be the female? So how you should how you should deal with the weather is according to the female, and again the note is not helpful here, but Stephen Mitchell's version in this line, he says, this is letting events take their course. So just come what may, accept what happens, that's the way of the Taoist. He continues, discerning and understanding the four corners, can man do so without knowledge? So this note here explains that in order to have true understanding of life, you have to do it without knowledge, or without wisdom. Now this seems counterintuitive, because it seems like wisdom is the very thing that Lao Tzu wants to share with us. But I think in this verse, and according to some other versions, what he means here by knowledge has to do with mere human knowledge. So in other words, to have true wisdom, or to have true understanding, we need to see through or set aside human, merely human understanding. He continues, to produce and to raise, to produce without possessing, to act without asserting, and to develop without controlling, this is called the profound virtue. So as far as how we ought to live, how we ought to govern or lead, we do so in an uncontrolling, unassertive way. Yes, be active, be productive, but don't hold on tightly to what you've produced. In chapter 11, Lao Tzu says, 30 spokes converge in a nave. Just because of its nothingness, the usefulness of the cart exists. And so the idea here is, I actually like the version, the Stephen Mitchell version on this one. He says, we join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. So the wheel is very useful, but actually it's the hole in the middle of the wheel that attaches the wheel to the cart that makes it the most useful. So it is the nothingness, or the emptiness, that is where the power resides. He continues, molded clay forms a vessel. Just because of its nothingness or hollowness, the usefulness of the utensil exists. So whether we're talking about this vessel, or in other versions a pot, or a cup, It is the emptiness of the object that gives it its usefulness, it gives it its power. So this so-called nothingness, this paradoxical nothingness, is what we value in these objects. He continues, doors and windows are cut into a house just because of their nothingness or emptiness. The usefulness of the house exists. So why do we value a house? Is it for its walls? Well, not primarily. What we value a house for is for the space within in which we live. And so the power or the usefulness is found in the emptiness or the nothingness that's inside the house. He concludes, therefore, profit from that which exists and utilize that which is absent. Stephen Mitchell puts this last line this way: we work with being, but non-being is what we use. In chapter 12, Lao Tzu says, the 5 colors blind man's eyes. The 5 notes deafen his ears. The 5 tastes spoil his palate. In other words, the senses, the 5 senses, all of the beauty in life tempts and distracts us from our true natures. He continues, the chase and the hunt make his heart go mad. The rare treasures constrain his actions. In other words, the greed of life can distract us from our true natures. Therefore, the sage or the wise person provides for the belly and not for the eyes. He rejects that to prefer this. The note for this last section says down below, for the belly means to feed oneself with material things. For the eyes means to allow material things to enslave the self. Therefore, the sage does not provide for the eyes. This is similar to chapter 3, where he says that the good leader empties the minds of the people, but fills their belly. In other words, he keeps them satisfied, but doesn't tempt them or distract them with the finer or luxurious things in life. I hope you found that helpful.